Imagine this. You walk into a room full of people. Some are talking, some are laughing, some are discussing ideas with passion and fire. And there you are, standing quietly, blending into the background. You want to connect. You want to speak. You want to be heard. You want people to look at you with that spark of recognition, that feeling that says, this person matters. What they say matters. But instead, you feel invisible. You know that feeling? That moment when you're surrounded by people, yet you somehow feel alone? Maybe it's at work. Maybe in your friend circle. Maybe at home, where your voice gets lost in the noise. You wonder, how do some people effortlessly win the respect, trust, and admiration of everyone they meet? How do they walk into a room and instantly make everyone feel valued? How do they influence decisions, open doors, build relationships without ever forcing anything? And then there's you, trying your best, but feeling like you're climbing a mountain made of glass. But what if I told you something? What if the way we were taught to communicate, the way we try to convince people, the way we try to make friends, build relationships, or influence situations is wrong? Not just wrong completely backwards. What if the real secret to becoming charismatic, likable, persuasive, and deeply respected has nothing to do with having the perfect words, the perfect timing, or the perfect confidence? What if the real secret is something far more human, something older than technology, older than business, older than society itself, something as ancient as human connection? Let me tell you a story. In the early 1900s, long before TikTok influencers, business coaches, or self-help gurus, there was a man born into poverty, in a tiny farmhouse in the middle of rural Missouri, a man who would go on to teach Hollywood actors, business titans, world leaders, and everyday dreamers the art of communication. His teachings became the backbone of modern relationships, negotiations, leadership, and personal success. He didn't just write a book, he wrote a revolution in human behavior. His name was Dale Carnegie. And the book he wrote, How to Win Friends and Influence People, became one of the most important guides to human interaction ever printed. Published in 1936, it still sells more than 1 million copies every single year. Why? Because people may change. Technology may change. The world may change. But human nature, human désir, human émotion remains the same. And this book, even after almost a century, still works like magic. Not because it manipulates people, but because it understands them. Not because it teaches tricks, but because it teaches truth. Not because it changes how you talk, but because it changes how you see people. By the time you finish this entire video, you won't simply understand the book. You'll feel it. You'll live it. You'll see the world and every human interaction in a different light. This is not just a book summary. It's a journey into human nature, a journey into emotion, psychology, and behavior. A journey that has helped millions of people transform their friendships, relationships, careers, and even their self-worth. So take a breath, open your heart, and let's begin. Because your life and the way you connect to others is about to change. Author background. Before we dive into the book and its life-changing ideas, we need to meet the man behind them. Because Dale Carnegie did not write these ideas from a golden throne of success. He wrote them from struggle, from failure, from embarrassment, from pain. His story begins on a farm so poor that his family couldn't afford luxuries like running water or electricity. He spent his childhood milking cows at 4 a.m., feeding pigs, and working under a burning sun, dreaming of a better life, a life where he could speak, influence, and inspire. But Dale was not born charismatic. He wasn't the popular kid. He wasn't the confident speaker. He wasn't the natural leader. In fact, he was painfully shy. He remembered moments where he would try to speak and his voice would shake. Moments where he felt ignored. Moments where he walked home thinking, why can't I just talk like everyone else? Does that feeling sound familiar? One day, something changed. A speaker came to his town, giving a public lecture about communication and self-expression. Dale watched in awe. The speaker wasn't wealthy, famous, or powerful, but he had something even more valuable. He had influence, People listened when he spoke. People admired him. People leaned forward because his words mattered. And Dale thought, if I can learn to speak like that, I can change my life. He joined the debate team. He practiced speaking while walking along country roads. He practiced in front of cows, horses, and walls, imagining each one was an audience member. He failed. He stumbled. He forgot lines. He embarrassed himself. But he didn't stop. Slowly, painfully, carefully, he transformed himself. When he finally got a chance to speak publicly, people listened. He wasn't perfect, but he was authentic. He spoke with emotion. He spoke with sincerity. And people felt it. After college, he tried to become an actor. Failed. Tried to be a salesman. Failed. Tried to write novels. Failed again. Broke and desperate, he applied to teach public speaking at YMCA, even though he had no idea what he would teach. On his first day, he walked into a room full of adults who were as nervous as he once was. He began by asking them to speak. They refused. Nobody wanted to raise their hand. So Dale, in panic, improvised. He said, "Just stand up and talk about something that made you angry this week." One man stood. He didn't speak well, but he spoke honestly. People connected with him. They clapped. In that moment, Dale discovered the deepest truth about communication. People don't want perfection. People want emotion. People want honesty. People want to feel understood. His classes exploded in popularity. Soon, thousands of people were lining up to learn the secrets of influence, connection, and human behavior from the shy farm boy who transformed himself. He interviewed world leaders. He studied psychology. He collected real-life stories from students. And finally, he poured everything he learned into one book. A book that would outlive him. A book that would change millions of lives. A book that would sit on shelves next to Bibles and dictionaries. Because the world needed it. People often mistake this book as a guide to manipulation. They think it's about tricks to get people to like you. Wrong. This book is about human nature. About understanding people on the deepest emotional level. About recognizing one simple truth. Every human being you meet, no matter who they are, wants to feel important. Everyone you meet is fighting a battle you cannot see, a silent hunger for appreciation, recognition, and respect. Carnegie's philosophy is simple. If you can make people feel valued, if you can make them feel heard, if you can make them feel important, you will win their hearts. And once you win their hearts, influence follows naturally. Not through force, not through pressure, not through manipulation, through connection, through empathy, through authenticity. This book is not about changing other people. It's about changing you so you can relate to others in a way that feels natural, powerful, and deeply human. Every chapter, every principle, every story in this book is built on one idea. If you want people to like you, you must first genuinely like them. Not pretend, not fake it, not use technique. Genuine interest, genuine curiosity, genuine appreciation. And that's what we're going to explore deeply, emotionally, and with storytelling through each section of this script. The silent truth about human behavior. Let me take you somewhere. Imagine walking through a crowded city, street horns honking, vendors shouting, people rushing past each other with bags, phones, and unfinished dreams in their hands. You pause for a moment. You look around. Every face you see, every tired pair of eyes, every hurried expression belongs to someone who wants something incredibly simple. To matter. Not money, not fame, not luxury, at least not at the deepest level. What people truly ache for is recognition, appreciation, worth. It's the universal human need Dale Carnegie places at the heart of his book. And the first section begins with 3 principles that sound simple, but when you truly understand them, they will change how you see every human being you ever meet. Let's begin with the first. Principle 1. Don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Let me tell you a story that reveals the raw truth behind this rule. In the early 1930 seconds, one of the most feared men in America was a criminal named Two Gun Crowley, a ruthless killer, a man who shot policemen, gangsters, and anyone who crossed him. When the police finally cornered him in a tiny New York apartment, dozens of officers surrounded the building. A 2-hour gun battle followed, bullets flying, windows shattering, smoke filling the air. But the shocking part wasn't the gunfight. It was what they found in Crowley's pocket after they arrested him. A handwritten note. It said, "Under my coat is a weary heart, but a kind one that would do nobody any harm." Imagine that. A murderer who believed he was a good man. Now, why does Dale Carnegie start his book with this story? Because it reveals something profound. No matter how wrong someone is, they believe they are right. No matter how badly they act, they justify it in their mind. Even the worst human beings rarely blame themselves. And if they won't accept criticism, do you think the ordinary person will? Criticism doesn't create change. Criticism creates resistance. When you criticize someone, they don't think, "Oh, wow, thank you for pointing out my flaws." Instead, they think, "You don't understand me. You don't see my intentions. You don't know what I'm going through." Criticism hardens people. It closes their hearts. It makes them defend themselves. Let me ask you something. Has anyone ever changed your behavior by making you feel small, stupid, or guilty? Of course not. We humans are emotional creatures. We crave acceptance and understanding more than correctness. And what Carnegie teaches is this. If you want people to change, don't attack their pride. Don't destroy their dignity. Don't crush their spirit. Instead, understand them. That doesn't mean you ignore problems. It means you speak to the part of them that cares, not the part that resists. Imagine telling a child, "You never listen. You always make mistakes," versus saying, "I know you're capable of better. I believe in you." Which one inspires? Which one opens the heart instead of shutting it? Carnegie famously said, "Criticism is dangerous because it wounds a person's pride, hurts their sense of importance, and arouses resentment." And here's the twist. When you stop criticizing others, something miraculous happens. People begin to trust you. They lower their defenses. They stop seeing you as a threat and start seeing you as an ally. That is the foundation of influence. But the story doesn't end here, because avoiding criticism is just the first step. The next principle is the key that unlocks the human heart. Principle 2, give honest and sincere appreciation. Let me tell you, a night that changed Henry Ford's life. One of America's greatest industrialists, a man who revolutionized the automobile industry, once made a mistake. A big mistake. He built a car called the Ford Model T. It was the most popular car in the world, and Ford loved it so much, he refused to change it. His employees begged him. His designers warned him. His customers wanted something new. But Ford was stubborn. He held onto the Model T like it was a part of his soul. One day, his chief designer finally created a new model sleeker, faster, more modern. When they revealed it to Henry Ford, he became furious. He stormed into the workshop like a hurricane, walked up to the new model, lifted his boot, and began kicking the car until its metal bent and shattered. Why am I telling you this? Because Henry Ford was brilliant, powerful, wealthy, but even he needed appreciation. His stubbornness wasn't arrogance, it was emotional hunger, a need to preserve something that had made him feel accomplished. People cling to things that make them feel important. They resist anything that threatens their identity. And the only antidote to this is appreciation. Carnegie says, the deepest principle in human nature is the craving to be appreciated. Not praised, not flattered, not manipulated. Appreciated. Let me explain the difference. Praise is shallow, flattery is selfish, but appreciation is sincere. Flattery says, "You're amazing now, do something for me." Appreciation says, "You matter. I see you. I value you. Thank you." And humans, we live for that feeling. Think about the last time someone genuinely appreciated you, not for a big achievement, but for something small you did. Maybe someone said, "I really admire how patient you are." Or, "Thank you for always being there." Or, "I don't say this enough, but I appreciate the effort you put in." You felt warm, right? Sane, understood, valued. Now imagine if you gave that feeling to others. Carnegie shares the story of Charles Schwab, the business leader who built an empire not through fear, but through appreciation. Schwab once said, "I consider the ability to arouse enthusiasm among people the greatest asset I possess." When workers made mistakes, he didn't yell. He didn't punish. He didn't lecture. He pointed out what they did well. He encouraged them. He reignited their belief in themselves. And guess what? People worked harder. They became loyal. They admired him. Because when someone consistently makes you feel important, you naturally want to exceed their expectations. This is the magic of appreciation. It transforms people. It inspires them. It opens doors you didn't know existed. And yet, most people never use it. Why? Because we're too focused on what we want, what we need, what we achieve. We forget that the key to winning friends is not to talk about how great we are, but how great they are. The world is full of people who will tell you what you're doing wrong. The world lacks people who tell you what you're doing right. Be that person. But the journey doesn't stop there, because the third principle is the one that instantly makes you magnetic. Principle 3. Arouse in the other person an eager want. This principle is the secret of persuasion, the heart of influence, the engine behind every great leader, marketer, negotiator, or communicator. Let me show you what it really means. Think about a baby. Even before they can speak, they know one thing. If they cry loudly enough, someone will come. They don't care what you want. They don't care if you're busy. They care only about their needs. And guess what? Most adults don't grow out of that. No matter how sophisticated we become, human nature stays the same. We think in terms of our desires, not other people's. When you try to influence someone by talking about what you want, you fail. When you talk in terms of what they want, you win. Carnegie tells the story of a boy named Sigmund, who desperately wanted to catch a fish. He used worms as bait, but the fish didn't bite. Why? Because fish don't like worms. Humans like worms. Fish like insects. Sigmund finally switched to what the fish wanted and instantly succeeded. Now here's the lesson. You cannot influence people by talking about your desires. You can influence them only by speaking to their desires. Let me give you a real example. A man wanted his son to stop smoking. He lectured him. He scolded him. He warned him. Nothing worked. Then, one day, he tried something new. He said, "Son, I'm not asking you to stop smoking for me. I'm asking you because I know you dream of being an athlete, and smoking will destroy your stamina. You're strong, and I want you to become everything you can be." The boy quit within a month. Why? Because the father stopped talking about what he wanted and started talking about what the son wanted. This principle applies everywhere. If you want your partner to listen to, you speak to their values. If you want your child to behave, speak to their dreams. If you want your colleague to cooperate, speak to their concerns. If you want your customers to buy, speak to their motivations. People don't follow logic. People follow desire. And once you understand what someone wants, truly wants, you hold the key to influencing them. Across these three principles, there is one common truth. Focus on the other person, not yourself. Most people go through life trying to win arguments, prove points, get recognition, satisfy their ego. And because of that, they fail to build deep connections. What Carnegie teaches is revolutionary in its simplicity. If you treat a person with dignity, if you value them, if you speak to their deepest needs, you become unforgettable. People will walk away thinking, "I don't know what it is about them, but I like them. I feel comfortable with them. They understand me. I trust them." And trust is the foundation of influence, the secret door every human heart has. Before we begin, I want you to imagine something. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture a door, old, wooden, worn by time. It's not a grand door or a shiny one, just a simple human door, but it leads somewhere profound. Behind that door is the heart of every person you've ever met. Friends, strangers, co-workers, lovers, even enemies. Most people try to break that door down with force, with arguments, demands, pressure, or ego. They push, they pull, they get frustrated. But Dale Carnegie discovered something extraordinary. This door does not open with force. It opens from within, with 6 simple keys. These 6 keys are not tricks. They're not hacks. They're not manipulation. They are truths, human truths. Once you understand them, people will naturally like you, trust you, and feel drawn to you. Let's walk through each one, not as a list, but as a story, an emotional journey into human nature. Principle 1. Become genuinely interested in other people. Let me take you to a party. The room is full of chatter, clinking glasses, laughter, and small talk. You're speaking to someone, maybe a new acquaintance, maybe a coworker. You talk about your projects, your goals, your achievement. And while you're speaking, you notice something. Their eyes, wandering, glancing around, looking for someone else. They're not truly there. They're waiting for their turn to talk, waiting for something more interesting. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine someone who leans in when you speak, someone whose eyes light up with curiosity, someone who says, "Really? Tell me more." How do you feel? You feel alive. You feel important. You feel seen. And that's the secret Carnegie teaches. You can make more friends in 2 months by being genuinely interested in them than you can in 2 years by trying to get them interested in you. Dale's friend, Jim Farley, became Postmaster General of the United States, one of the highest positions in the country, not because he was brilliant or powerful or wealthy, but because he remembered people, their names, their birthdays, their kids' birthdays, their dreams, their joys, their worries. He liked people, and in return, people liked him. Carnegie tells a story of a dog, and it reveals something essential about human connection. When you come home, a dog doesn't ask what you've accomplished today. It doesn't care about your status or your failures. It runs to you with pure excitement. Why? Because dogs have mastered something humans forget. Show genuine interest in others, and you will be loved. Not fake interest, not strategic interest, genuine interest. Because here's the truth. Most people walk around feeling invisible. You can make them feel alive simply by caring. And people never forget how you make them feel. Principle 2, smile. It sounds simple, almost childish, doesn't it? Smile. But the story behind this principle is anything but simple. Dale Carnegie once visited a man who had worked in a dull office for decades. His job was repetitive, thankless, boring. He sat behind a desk all day, stamping documents. Boom, boom, boom. Stamp after stamp after stamp. One day, Carnegie asked him, "How do you keep yourself motivated?" The man leaned back in his chair and said, "Every morning, I decide to start the day with a smile. Because I've learned something. You can't smile at someone and they not smile back." None. What he said next is what stayed with Dale forever. A smile costs nothing, but it creates everything. And he was right. A smile is not just a movement of the lips. A smile is a message. It says, "I like you. I'm glad you're here. You matter. I feel safe with you." A smile is a free gift that changes the energy of a room. Think about the last time a stranger smiled at you. Even for a split second, didn't it warm your heart? Or think about when someone frowns at you. Didn't it tense your shoulders a little? Carnegie wrote, "Actions speak louder than words." And a smile says, "I like you." One day, a businessman told Dale, "When I smile at my employees, productivity rises. When I don't, the whole building feels colder." Your smile is emotional currency. It's warmth. It's connection. But here's the important part. Only a genuine smile works. A fake smile is a wound hidden under a bandage. People sense it instantly. But a real smile, a smile that comes from warmth, from care, from kindness, that smile has the power to transform relationships. And don't forget, you deserve your own smile too. Principle 3. Remember that a person's name is to that person the sweetest sound. Names are powerful, more powerful than you think. There's a story about Andrew Carnegie, the steel tycoon, one of the richest men of his time. People would ask him, "How did you find such loyal workers? How did you lead such massive teams?" His secret? He remembered names, not just first names, but middle names, children's names, even the names of their pets. He treated everyone, from the factory worker to the executive, with the same warmth. Why does this matter? Because a name is not just a word. It's identity. It's history. It's pride. It's the sound a person has heard since childhood from their parents, their teachers, their friends. When you remember someone's name, you make them feel valued. When you forget it, you make them feel invisible. Dale tells a powerful story of a man who wanted a job. The employer said, "I'm not hiring." Instead of giving up, the man said, "I understand, Mr. Johnson. Could I ask a question anyway?" The employer froze. "How did you remember my name?" he asked. The man replied, "You introduced yourself once. That was enough." The employer hired him on the spot. Why? Because most people don't truly listen. Most people don't truly care. But those who do become unforgettable. And here's the truth. You don't remember names to impress people. You remember names to respect them. Principle 4. Be a good listener. Encourage others to talk about themselves. Let me take you to a cafe. Two people sit across from each other, a man and a woman. The man talks nonstop. He talks about his work, his dreams, his awards, his opinions, his accomplishments. After 1 hour, the woman barely spoke 5 sentences. At the end of the conversation, she turns to a friend and says, "He is the most interesting man I've ever met." But he wasn't interesting. He didn't tell fascinating stories or share profound wisdom. She felt he was interesting because he made her feel interesting. He listened. He leaned in. He nodded. He asked questions. He didn't try to perform. He made space. And that's why she liked him. People don't want a brilliant conversationalist. People want a brilliant listener. Carnegie discovered something profound. Most people are not listening. They are waiting to talk. But the moment you become a true listener, you instantly stand out. A simple, "Tell me more about that," has more emotional power than 10 minutes of talking. When you listen deeply, something magical happens. People open up. People trust you. People feel connected to you. You become rare because deep listeners are rare. Principle 5. Talk in terms of the other person's interests. This principle is the art of social magic. Let me show you. A businessman once attended a dinner party where he was seated next to a famous botanist, an expert on plants and flowers. The businessman had zero interest in botany, but he remembered Carnegie's advice. So he asked a simple question: "What got you interested in plants?" The botanist's eyes lit up. The businessman listened, truly listened for over an hour. He asked questions, leaned in, showed curiosity. At the end of the evening, the botanist said, "You are one of the most fascinating conversationalists I've ever met." But the businessman barely spoke about himself. He spoke about the botanist's passions. And that is the secret. If someone loves cricket, talk cricket. If they love dogs, talk dogs. If they're excited about their new project, let them talk about it. When you talk about what they care about, you connect to their heart. Because people's interests are windows into their souls. Principle 6. Make the other person feel important and do it sincerely. This is the greatest principle of all. If you master only one, master this. A man once wrote to Abraham Lincoln asking for political advice. Lincoln was president of the United States. He had wars to fight, decisions to make. But he replied personally, not with a rushed note, but with warmth, with care. Years later, that man said, "I wasn't important. But Lincoln made me feel like I was the only person in the world." That is influence. People crave importance more than wealth, fame, power, or comfort. If you can look someone in the eyes and say, through your words, your silence, your actions, you matter. I see you. I respect you. You're important. You will touch their heart forever. But sincerity is key. You cannot fake importance. You cannot pretend. This must come from the heart. Because when it does, you will transform your relationships, your friendships, your work, your love life, even your self-worth. Carnegie wrote, "Do unto others as you would have others do unto you." But he didn't mean this as a moral rule. He meant it as a human truth. People love those who make them feel important. They admire them. They trust them. They follow them. This is not manipulation. It is connection. The hidden power of these 6 principles. When you combine all 6 principles, something extraordinary happens. You become the kind of person people want to be around. Not because you're brilliant, not because you're charming, not because you're powerful, but because you make others feel valued. People don't remember your words. People don't remember your achievements. People remember how you made them feel. And these 6 principles, when lived sincerely, make people feel Seen heard respected, appreciated, understood, important. And that, my friend, is how relationships are built. Not with scripts, not with tricks, not with ego, but with humanity. The silent war we all fight. Let me begin with a picture. Two people stand face to face. Their voices are rising. Their brows are tensed. Their frustration is boiling. One believes they are right. The other believes they are right. Neither is listening. Now pause the scene. Freeze it right here. Ask yourself, who wins in this argument? The answer? Nobody. Argument don't create clarity. Argument create enemy. Argument don't solve problems. Argument create scars. Carnegie says it bluntly. The only way to get the best of an argument is to avoid it. And here's the emotional truth. When two egos collide, love loses, respect loses, peace loses, human connection loses. That's why this section of the book is so powerful. Because it teaches you how to influence people without fighting them. How to create agreement without forcing it. How to speak so people listen not out of fear, but out of trust. Let's dive into the principles, one by one, through stories, emotions, examples, and unforgettable moments. Principle X. The only way to get the best of an argument is to avoid it. Let me tell you a story from Dale Carnegie's own life. A man once invited him to dinner and proudly served what he believed was the best food, something he thought Carnegie loved. But the host made a mistake. He served the wrong dish. When he realized it, he panicked and said, "Oh no, I forgot. You don't like this dish, right?" Everyone at the table turned to look at Dale. Silence, tension, expectation. He could have said, "Yes, I actually don't like this." He could have embarrassed the host. He could have pointed out the mistake. But instead, he smiled gently and said, "I love it, thank you." And he ate it. Every bite. After dinner, a friend whispered to him, "Why didn't you correct him? You don't like that dish." Carnegie replied, "What would I gain by proving him wrong? Nothing. But I might hurt him." This is the core of the principle. Winning an argument often means losing something more valuable. A relationship, a connection, a moment of peace. When you argue, even if you win, the other person resents you. Their ego bleeds. Their pride suffers. So what do? They retreat. They shut down. They plan their comeback. They defend their territory. Arguments are emotional battles with no victors. Avoiding arguments does not mean agreeing with everything. It means approaching disagreements differently. Instead of saying, "You're wrong," try, "I understand your point. Let's look at this together. Help me see your perspective." This changes everything. Principle 2. Show respect for the other person's opinions. Never say, "You're wrong." If you want to instantly shut someone down, tell them they're wrong. 3 words. But they explode like a bomb. "You're wrong." The moment you say it, the person's brain stops listening. They go into defense mode. They protect their identity. Because being told "you're wrong" feels like you're foolish, you're confused, you're less intelligent, and no human likes that. Let me show you a story. Carnegie once met a politician who held a strong opinion on a topic of economics, an opinion that was factually incorrect. Dale could have corrected him. He could have said, "That's not true. Here are the facts." But he didn't. He simply said, "I may be wrong. I often am. But I thought the numbers were slightly different." The politician softened. He leaned in. He asked questions. He became curious. That's the magic. When you tell someone they might be right, they become open to hearing that they might be wrong. When you attack someone's beliefs, they strengthen them. But when you gently explore their beliefs, they loosen them. You influence, not by pushing, but by inviting. That is true psychological influence. Principle 3. If you are wrong, admit it quickly and emphatically. There is a certain beauty in admitting you're wrong. It's vulnerability, it's courage, it's humility, and people respect it more than you can imagine. Let me tell you an unforgettable story. Carnegie once entered a hotel with his small dog. A sign read, "No dogs allowed." The manager approached him angrily. "Sir, dogs are strictly forbidden." Now imagine the typical response. Argue, defend, explain, justify. But Carnegie did something completely different. He said, "You're absolutely right. I'm wrong. I have no excuse. I shouldn't have brought the dog in." The manager froze. He expected resistance. He got honesty. He expected a fight. He got surrender. Suddenly, the manager softened. He smiled. He said, "Well, just don't let anyone see him. You're fine." What just happened? Carnegie disarmed him. When you argue, people resist. When you blame, people fight back. When you accuse people, defend. But when you admit you're wrong, you remove their weapon. They can't attack someone who surrendered. It transforms the emotional dynamic from conflict to cooperation, from hostility to humanity. Try this once, and you'll see how powerful it is. Principle 4. Begin in a friendly way. If you approach someone with tension, they respond with tension. If you approach someone with warmth, they respond with warmth. Carnegie shares a story of a tax collector who used to start appointments with serious, stern expressions, and people resisted him. Then he tried something new. He said, "Let me start by telling you how grateful I am that you came." He smiled. He softened. He brought warmth. What happened? People opened up. They cooperated. They trusted him. Friendly beginnings create friendly endings. This principle is psychological physics. Warmth melts resistance. Coldness creates resistance. Principle simp. Get the other person saying, "Yes, yes," immediately. You've seen this principle used everywhere in marketing, in negotiations, in leadership, in sales. It's called the yes letter, and it's powerful. Let me show you why. Imagine you ask someone to agree with a big idea. Immediately. Most people hesitate. Their instinct is to resist. But if you start with small things they already agree with, their mind shifts into agreement mode. Carnegie tells the story of a teacher who wanted a student to complete assignments on time. Instead of commanding, "You must finish your homework," she said, "You want to pass the class, right?" The student nodded. "Yes." "And you want to improve your grades?" "Yes." "And finishing your assignments helps with that, doesn't it?" "Yes." Now the student was emotionally aligned with the solution, and he started completing his homework without resistance. When people say yes, even to small questions, their brain remains open. This is not manipulation. This is emotional pacing, alignment, synchronization. Agreement grows in the soil of small yeses. Principle 6. Let the other person do a great deal of the talking. Humans don't just want to be heard. They need to be heard. And when people talk, they reveal their fears, desires, motivations, dreams, insecurities. Carnegie says, "Let them talk themselves into agreement." Here's a story. A businessman wanted to sell a piece of machinery. Instead of pitching its benefits, he asked the customer, "What are your biggest challenges right now?" He listened. The customer talked for 20 minutes. At the end, the customer said, "You know, I think your machine is exactly what we need." The salesman hardly spoke. People trust their own thoughts more than your persuasion. If you control the conversation, you lose influence. If you allow them to speak, they convince themselves. Principle sept. Let the other person feel the idea is his or hers. This is leadership psychology. If you push an idea onto someone, they resist. If they feel the idea came from them, they embrace it passionately. Let me show you an example. A supervisor wanted workers to improve efficiency. Instead of giving them strict instructions, he said, "What do you think we can do to speed up production?" The workers brainstormed ideas. The same ideas the supervisor originally planned to give them. But now, the workers owned the idea. And because they owned it, they committed to it 10 times harder. People support what they help create. Principle 8. Try honestly to see things from the other person's point of view. Human conflict has one root: a lack of understanding. People don't want you to agree with them. They want you to understand them. Carnegie tells the story of a father arguing with his daughter about her messy room. No matter how much he demanded order, she resisted. Then he tried something different. He imagined being her age. He imagined her priorities, her world. her emotions. He said to her, "I understand why you don't want to clean your room. You want your personal space, and I get that." Her heart softened instantly. When she felt understood, she became willing to listen. Understanding is emotional magic. It dissolves barriers. It heals wounds. It turns arguments into conversations. Principle 9. Be sympathetic with the other person's ideas and desires. Sympathy doesn't mean agreement. Sympathy means acknowledging human emotion. A man once yelled at a store owner because a product broke. The owner could have argued. He could have explained. He could have fought back. Instead, he said, "I'd be angry too if that happened to me." Instant transformation. The customer calmed down. The tension dissolved. People don't want logic when they are emotional. They want sympathy. Principle 10. Appeal to the nobler motives. Humans have two layers: the selfish self, the noble self. When you appeal to their noble self, they rise. Carnegie tells a story of a store that suspected a cashier of theft. Instead of accusing him, they said, "You're one of our most trusted employees. We know you value honesty. Can you help us understand what happened here?" The cashier confessed on his own, not because of fear, but because they appealed to his best self. People want to be good. Help them. Principle 3. Dramatize your ideas. Humans don't respond to facts. They respond to emotion, visuals, drama. A salesman could simply say, "Our product saves electricity." Instead, he turns off the lights, plugs in his device, and the room brightens dramatically. People remember what they feel more than what they hear. Principle 4. Throw down a challenge. Humans are wired to rise to challenges. Competition awakens energy. Carnegie writes that Charles Schwab once put up a chalkboard and wrote, "Last night's production, 6 units. The night shift workers saw it and wanted to beat it. Next night, 7, then 8, then 10. No orders, no commands, just a challenge." People want to win. Use that. If you want to influence people, if you want people to say yes, if you want cooperation, not arguments, remember this: people are emotional. People have pride. People want to feel respected. People want to feel understood. Influence is not domination. Influence is harmony. And when you use these principles sincerely, not as tricks, but as a way of life, you become someone people trust, someone people listen to, someone people admire. Because you speak to their heart, not their ego. The moment when the book stops being a book, let me take you to a moment that changes everything. It's late at night. You're alone, maybe sitting by your desk, maybe by a window, maybe on your bed. Your phone is silent. The world outside is quiet, and you're thinking about someone in your life. Someone you love, someone you lost, someone you argued with, someone who misunderstood you, someone you wish you understood better. Maybe it's a parent, maybe a partner, maybe a friend, maybe a colleague, maybe even yourself. And in that stillness, you realize something. Every relationship you've ever had, good or bad, was shaped by the quality of your communication. Your entire life has been shaped by moments of connection and moments of miscommunication. Every fight, every friendship, every breakup, every bond, every misunderstanding, every apology, every moment of trust, every moment of love. And suddenly, the ideas in this book stop being principles. They become mirrors. Mirrors showing you the relationships you cherished and the ones you lost. Mirrors showing you the people you hurt and the people who hurt you. Mirrors showing you the person you were and the person you can become. This is the part of the journey where the book transforms into something deeper, something emotional, something powerful. Let's walk into that together. The first realization: people aren't difficult. They're human. A woman once came to Dale Carnegie after a seminar. She said, with tears in her eyes, "My husband and I argue so much. Nothing I say gets through to him." Carnegie asked her, "When he speaks, do you listen to understand, or do you listen to reply?" She paused. She sighed. She whispered, "I listen to defend myself." Carnegie smiled gently and said, "We all do. But the moment we stop trying to win, we start understanding." That night, the woman went home. Her husband started telling her about something that annoyed him. Usually, she would interrupt, defend herself, fight back. But this time, she just listened. Fully. Softly. Without preparing a counter-argument. When he finished, she said, "I understand why you'd feel that way. I'm sorry if I made you feel unheard." Her husband froze. He softened. He exhaled. And then he said something he hadn't said in years. "Thank you." That night, two people remembered why they fell in love. Not because they were perfect, but because they finally saw each other again. People aren't difficult. People are emotional beings trying to protect their hearts. Once you understand that, everything changes. The second realization, being right, is overrated. Being kind isn't. Let me tell you a story about a man named Thomas. Thomas was brilliant, top of his class, sharp mind, quick thinker. He loved debates. He loved proving people wrong. He loved being the smartest person in the room. One day, after yet another argument, his professor pulled him aside. He said, "Thomas, you're right most of the time, but you're losing something far more valuable." Thomas asked, "What am I losing?" The professor replied, "People." The words hit Thomas like a brick, because for the first time, he saw the truth. He was winning arguments, but losing relationships. Being right gives you victory for a moment. Being kind gives you respect for a lifetime. From that day onward, Thomas changed. He didn't argue to win. He spoke to connect, and he listened, truly listened. And suddenly, the world responded differently. People opened up to him. People valued his presence. People sought his advice. People trusted him. He didn't become weaker. He became human. Carnegie often said, "A drop of honey catches more flies than a gallon of gall." In other words, kindness is influence. Gentleness is strength. Understanding is power. Winning people matters more than winning arguments. The third realization, everyone is carrying something you cannot see. You've heard this phrase before, but let me bring it to life. Imagine a man standing in line at a grocery store. He looks irritated. He snaps at the cashier. He huffs loudly when the person in front takes too long. People judge him instantly. What a rude guy. What's his problem? Why can't he be patient? But what no one sees is that 20 minutes earlier, he received a call from the hospital. His mother's condition worsened. He's scared. He's exhausted. He's overwhelmed. But he can't tell the world that. So the fear comes out as irritation. Carnegie often said, "Any fool can criticize, condemn, and complain." And most fools do. But it takes character and self-control to be understanding. The next time someone is rude, ask yourself, what pain might they be hiding? What fear might they be battling? What story might they be carrying inside? Compassion turns strangers into humans. Understanding turns anger into empathy. When you start seeing the world this way, your heart softens. Your relationships deepen. Your influence grows. Because people trust those who understand them. The fourth realization, if you want to be loved, start loving first. Here's a truth. People resist. You cannot receive warmth from the world if you radiate coldness. A man once complained to Carnegie, "I don't have any friends." Carnegie asked him, "When was the last time you made an effort to be friendly?" The man thought about it and whispered, "I can't remember." Carnegie said, "Being loved is a result. Being loving is the cause. Friendship is not found. It is created. Respect is not demanded. It is earned. Connection is not given. It is nurtured." Do you know what happens when you smile at people? They smile back. When you listen deeply, they open up. When you remember their name, they feel valued. When you appreciate them, they appreciate you. Human relationships are mirrors. They reflect back whatever you show them. If you show warmth, you receive warmth. If you show interest, you receive interest. If you show generosity, you receive generosity. And this is the emotional core of Carnegie's teachings. You become irresistible, not by trying to impress people, but by making people feel important. The fifth realization, the greatest power you have is not your intelligence, but your emotional impact. Let me take you to a boardroom. Two individuals give presentations. One is brilliant, flawless slides, perfect logic, high IQ, but he speaks like a robot. He talks at people, not to them. He dominates, he lectures, he overwhelms. People clap politely, but they forget him within minutes. Then, the second person stands up. Their slides are simple, their data is straight to the point, but they speak with warmth, with sincerity, with passion, with storytelling. They ask questions. They listen to reactions. They make people feel like equals. People leave the room talking about them, admiring them, wanting to work with them. Why? Because facts inform, but emotions influence. People forget what you said. People forget what you did, but people never forget how you made them feel. This principle is the heartbeat of Carnegie's entire philosophy. Your emotional impact is your true legacy. The final realization: the world changes. When you change the way you see people, this is where everything comes together. When you stop seeing people as obstacles, or opponents, or problems, and start seeing them as humans with hopes and fears and dreams, your relationships transform, your confidence transform, your presence transform, your influence transform, your entire life transform. Carnegie didn't write a book about techniques. He wrote a philosophy of humanity, a way of living, a way of treating people, a way of seeing the world, a way of becoming someone people love to be around, someone people trust, someone people admire, someone people remember forever. If you felt something today, if even one idea sparked a change, then please like, share, and subscribe to support this journey. And tell me in the comments, what book should we dive into in the next video? Your recommendation might be the next story I tell.